Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and we have today's guest, Dr. Milan Sombrак. Welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. And also Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you for inviting me too, Sasha. It's great to be here.
It's my pleasure. And today is Wednesday, although today's Wednesday is unusual because at 2 o'clock there will be announced decision Federal Reserve on interest rates. We are expecting 25 basic point drop. And at 2:30 there will be comments by Jerome Powell. Now, at 25 basic points, in my opinion, already baked into the existing stock prices, so I don't think it will be a big deal. Furthermore, I, I can see very clearly that market actually depends on the comments of Jerome Powell. It can go down substantially today because several reasons. Market is, by historical standards, is overpriced. Although I just said a couple of minutes ago that there is no such thing as overpriced market because market is always right. So if market today sets the S&P 500 at say 6,600 or so, who are we to say that market is wrong? No, market is right, except that this number can go down to 6,000 in a matter of 7.5 minutes. Depends on what he says at 2:30. And market always will be right. Even after dropping 600 points on S&P, market will be right. Or if market will go higher, same 600 points S&P. Is that possible? Many believe that no, it's not possible. I do believe that it is possible. Everything is possible. Market is always right, except what you can do, you can adjust your portfolios in certain way as to minimize your risk, protecting your investments. What I've done lately, I've exited all stock positions. I have no stocks as we speak. Only thing I still have I had quite a few spreads. I was fortunate enough to liquidate them at pretty good profit. And I have only one spread left is on I forgot the name of that stock, Broadcom. I bought a while ago 360 puts, and I sold already a few times, and each time collected profits on shorting 350 puts, but different months expiration. So I closed two or three positions, and I still one remaining position. Okay, I keep that one because the 360 puts, in my opinion, is unbeatable position, close to 100%, and that protects my short position considerably. Although I may exit short position fairly. It depends on what's happened today. All the rest has been liquidated. I have also two positions that will pay if market will go down. I'll tell you what they are exactly. It will be, one position is SPXU. It's a ProShares Trust in direction that market will go down. It's a reverse split, and I have 1,000 small position, but I may end up actually. And I have also SOX S. It's semiconductors, and my bet is that they will go down in price. I took this position last week, so obviously I'm losing on that position, but it's a small position. It's not worry at all. What worries me somewhat is my position, and it's a large position, on NVDY. I've collected dividends last week. So from that perspective, and just in the last 9 months, I've collected $101 US in dividends. So now that stock or position or what ETF you can call it, it's going down, and it's going down for a very simple reason that Nvidia stock is going down lately. So we'll see. We'll see how it will. But again, dividends are dividends, and all this is basically a paper loss. You don't have to close your position today or even tomorrow or next week. You can still keep it and collect next. In 3 weeks, there will be next dividend payment. So I decided to keep on this position just to collect even more dividends. Jim, how are you treating this, your portfolio these days?
I have increased my cash position heading into September.
Great.
Not a large degree, but to some degree. And I'm thinking of doing more, depending on what the Fed does. Um, if interest rates are 25 points, then depending on how the market reacts to that, because I agree with you, it's built into the price already. But there's still, depending on the remarks, there could be investor sentiment one way or the other. And I think more likely that it will be they don't think the Fed is cutting rates aggressively enough, and they're going to be disappointed, and the stocks prices will go down. Now, I increased my cash position because if they go down, I might be buying bargains at that point. So I have to be agile, a little bit nimble to see how this goes, to see if these moves are correct for me. I don't think that a dip today, even tomorrow, will be long term, at least in the sectors that I concentrate on, because I still see the revenue growth very robust in the near future. And I think those stocks have a great capacity, if there's a temporary dip, to rebound back and to continue to go higher. So whenever they get a little bit cheaper, I'm interested in buying more. And so that's my approach right now, Sasha.
Okay, I agree with you, except that my horizon of the deep is 4 to 6 weeks.
I see.
Yeah, and then of course there will be a lot of opportunities, and I have a large in my fund account. I have very large cash position now.
Mhm.
And, I can make it even larger, but okay, I'll keep a couple of positions that I still have. But I'm thinking about some strategic purchase, and now I'm turning to purchasing puts, something probably March puts on particularly General Motors and JP Morgan. And I'm looking at that, and they are still continue to move higher, but that's okay because the puts will be even cheaper as a result. So far, I'm not too worried about it that I will miss something or so on, because so far it works for me. Milan, what about S&P 500, and what do you do?
Well, most investors in the market lose, and they can simply equal the market, which is a very simple thing to do. All they need to do is buy an exchange traded fund which tracks the stock market, and the best of all of them is SPY. It has the narrowest bid ask spread, which is a cost to investors. So buying SPY is so simple, and that will equal the market. And so what happens if you have a 50-50 asset allocation, which means 50% of your investments are in cash and 50% are in SPY, an exchange traded fund which tracks the market. SPY is the best of all of them. Then what happens is when the market drops and you have more cash, you buy bargains to reestablish your 50-50 asset allocation. If the market rises, then you have more invested in the market than in cash. You sell at a profit. So you are constantly buying bargains and selling at a profit. Now, Wall Street doesn't like that, because if you have a 50-50 asset allocation where 50% is in cash, Wall Street doesn't make anything of that. So they do everything possible to discourage that. We need Wall Street in order to execute our orders, but they're not our friends. During their meetings, they spend their whole time discussing how to get more money out of us, and they call us Muppets. How to get more money out of us. They don't spend a single minute showing us how we can make more money. So 50-50 asset allocation works so well because it forces investors to buy bargains and to sell at a profit. It's as simple as that.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And I also think that, I see commercials where they're your best friend and they're going to help you make so much money. So, it's wise to follow your own lead. But the strategy that Milana outlines is great if you're not interested in following the market as Sasha and I do. And the other thing is the traditional bricks and mortar banking. They're not really your friend either. The return, say you don't know much about the market and you're in a savings account. Well, the returns on that savings account is very minimal. It's really doesn't make much sense to put your money there. And I was just reading about online CDs. You can get a certification deposit for a 7-month period, returning over 4%. And after 7 days, you can get your money back out without penalty. So this is another thing that didn't used to exist, this type of thing, but you can find a better return with guaranteed rate of return that's better than your bank will give you, and with minimal risk and tying up your money for a very short period of time. And even if you need it, you can get it. So there are many alternatives to doing what maybe your parents did, which is have a checking and savings account.
Yeah. And so that's something new, James? You're talking about a new approach. And what's it called?
Well, it's online CDs.
Online CD, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, for example, I was reading about the one delivered by Goldman Sachs, but do some shopping and see what kind of rate that you can get. And it was over 4%, which is better than your bank will give you in your savings account. And what caught my eye, though, was that you can take your money out with no penalty after 7 days. And so it was, and the length of time was only 7 months. So they'll pay you the plus 4% over a 7-month period. When I used to invest in CDs, I was a treasurer for a national charity, and the CD return was not so good, and they tied your money up for longer. But now they're being very aggressive about getting you to invest online with them rather than with your traditional banking, bricks and mortar, kind of go to the bank and that sort of thing. So there are more ways now to make more money than you would do with the traditional checking and savings accounts, which pay next to nothing.
Yeah, excellent. Of course, you can also buy high yield dividend stocks.
Yes, that's another approach.
One Canadian company, which is trading on US as well. It's the Enbridge, which is paying very healthy dividend. The company is very, very well run. So I would recommend that. Then Pfizer, but it doesn't pay so much in dividends. But, Pfizer, interestingly enough, found kind of a floor around $24, $25. It's staying there for quite a while. And I think that it's an excellent cash generating machine. So it's just a matter of fact that either they will raise dividend or they will have stock buyback. Something will happen that will push stock somewhat higher. Of course, that's not the situation with the high-flying stocks like what used to be NVIDIA and Broadcom and many others. But if you want to be conservative and preservation of capital is number one priority, as it should be always, so then These are offering, or even company like I think UPS, they're paying around 7% dividend.
See, that's another approach. And just talking to people who aren't comfortable getting into the market, these CDs are
Yeah,
backed.
yeah, it's
You
different.
will get your money back.
That's
And
different animal.
yeah, so but you and I both do some dividend investing, mostly for the dividend. And if the stock goes up or down a little bit, I don't pay attention to it, because the dividend is what a 7% dividend is appealing, but only as part of your asset allocation, as Milan says.
Well,
Yeah, your asset allocation should be, some aggressive, some safer, you know. But I don't even know what money markets pay now, but it's probably more than your savings account.
There is a group of dividend paying stocks which have been paying and increasing the dividend every year for more than 25 years. What are they called? There's a name that applies to them.
aristocrats, dividend aristocrats.
Aristocrats. Now, if you own dividend aristocrats, you're not doing as well as buying SPY. That's a fact.
Yeah, well, you want to mix up your portfolio as what you're comfortable with, and so putting all your money in dividends is not what we're recommending. The
No,
dividend paying stocks,
we-
and your approach doesn't do that, but it has a logic behind it. And if you stay disciplined and do as you say, keep your asset allocation around 50-50, 60-40, something like that. And react to what the market is doing, because your cash is either up or your online investments are up. That's a great approach. But if you want to put yourself in the market at all, we're talking about some more conservative ways to do it, and that is a fairly that lowers your risk. The approach that Milan is suggesting, but I also want more upside. And so I'm concentrating on the sector that are companies that are doing well. And Sasha just mentioned, if they got revenue, if they got a lot of cash and little debt, then my interest is peaked. And then you have to. This is where your experience and you stick with what you know is like. Do you think that revenue is sustainable? Do you think there's room for growth? And the sector that I'm paying attention to is the artificial intelligence sector. And the companies that are building chips that support it, uh, you know, um, customizable chips, not the old kind of chips that when you bought a computer, it said Intel inside. Those chips are not the future. The customizable, the chips that you can program and customize to your needs, to fill your needs in this artificial intelligence age that we have just begun to enter. It's not going away. It's going to be here for the remainder of the future that I can be have any comfort of predicting. And this artificial intelligence is going to impact our society in many ways.
Yep.
And the companies that are poised to take advantage of that are the ones that I'm investing in now. And not all companies are equal, but so Intel, they trying to do a pivot, and they got a boost from the government, the Biden bill that what they call the chip bill. Intel got a influx of cash from that, a substantial influx of cash from that, and they're trying to do a pivot. AMD was also an older chip maker that has done a pivot fairly successfully. NVIDIA is, of course, in the news all the time. Marvell is another one. But these are the types of things that we can make a great deal of money from. And then the rest of my portfolio is more conservative, because there's always a risk involved when you narrowed your focus as I have.
Well, picking stocks is something that we recommend against, rather than pick individual stocks. And you can do that. You can pick individual stocks by studying carefully what they hold and so on, but that takes a lot of time. And so if you have the time and the interest, by all means, pick individual stocks based on their holdings. But buying the market as a whole is very simple and it takes no time at all. If you enjoy doing that, by all means, pick individual stocks, but you have to study them very carefully. Picking the market as a whole takes no time at all. You're constantly buying bargains and constantly taking profits. You got no choice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, except that I don't put that much time into it. I wouldn't exaggerate the amount of time that I spend because what I'm looking for is prospects for revenue, current revenue, lack of debt. So it's very simple for me to identify a company that is poised.
Go to Yahoo Finance and you can see it all in a minute and a half.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It isn't. It doesn't take up a day out of my week. You know, it doesn't take up a half a day out of my week.
Minute and a half. That's all what you need.
Well,
But what takes longer than minute and a half is to do a technical analysis. To
Yes,
see the chart and to see the underlying currents.
which I don't do.
That may require more time, but even if you will not do, you see, I'm a little bit skeptical on very exhausting the technical analysis, simply because what you see is seen by a million other traders, professionals, and whoever. Therefore, yes, I look at it, but with a grain of salt. That's
That's their job to study that.
and I've heard very interesting observation that lately, in the last week and a half or so, institutional money are leaving the market, particularly high-tech stocks. They are normally, their pattern was to bring stocks higher in the beginning, and that's easy because individual investors, they're placing their orders overnight. So the brokers like Goldman Sachs and others, they already see the flow of orders. It's easy to bring to open market higher, or at least particular stocks. And then around 11:30, you see the volume dries up. The market is no longer going higher. In fact, it starts going lower. And to me, when it's done over and over again, it's a sign that professional money, institutional money, I'd rather say, leaving the market. Now, do the institutional traders have a great advantage over you
Yes.
and me?
they do.
Surprisingly not.
No?
Only 1, maximum 2% are wizards who are actually making.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The rest of them, they are scary traders who are trying to not to lose their job, and they are trying to cling on any way they can. They're copying each other. They're talking on the phone to each other. Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you doing this? And
Covering whatever. Yes.
that? Okay. So the difference
CYA.
is, okay, their advantage actually is, of course, they're not operating on a vicinity of margin calls. They have substantial amount of equity to trade with. Okay, that's where they do have advantage. But when trading individual stocks, they don't. Now, when I'm talking about technical analysis and I'm talking about trend lines and all this stuff, surprisingly, it applies to S&P 500 just as to any other individual stock. The mechanics are the same. The trend lines are the same. So you can follow I did follow the technical analysis of S&P 500. It has parallel lines. It has the resistance lines, support lines, and at 2:30 or thereafter, we will see how it will work out.
Sasha, you know that technical analysis is not highly regarded by professionals.
That's
And it
the
does take a
only
lot of
thing
time.
what there is. That's the only thing what matters, because all this fundamental analysis, it's becoming outdated even before they printed it.
Yeah,
The
it's
moment
based on the
that-
past and not the consideration of today and the future.
It's garbage. The moment when you read it,
Why do professionals have such a low opinion of technical analysis.
I don't care about their opinion because, as I said, only 1 or 2% know what they're doing. 98% have no clue of what they're doing. So there is no regards for all these so-called professionals.
What is your source? Where did you get the information that 98% of professionals don't know what they're doing? What's your source for that?
My source is a website, and actually they do a lot programs on I'm watching on TV, but it's on internet, verifyinginvesting.com. Follow that site. And what they're dealing is only with the technical analysis charts. What they're saying is that the charts are not lying. There is no bias in any direction. The charts are the charts, and the charts are not lying. That's my source.
Well, I think that the chart studying, I remember my father, who taught me chess, but he didn't teach me investing. But I do remember him drawing his own charts. And, so this is something that I associate with, when we were a manufacturing economy, which we no longer are, you could plot the course of the actions, and they could be a little bit predictable. But we're in an age right now where you need to be a lot more agile, a lot more nimble when you're coming to these types of things. And the charts are a reflection of the past and does not give you information, not a lot of information. And you have to be there's a lot of data out there, but there's not a lot of information unless you can glean from the data the information that you need to invest today.
Actually,
let me say a few words about manufacturing. We should not be in manufacturing because people who are in manufacturing, they hate their jobs, they love Fridays, they hate Mondays, they don't like what they're doing. We should leave manufacturing to China and other countries that are doing that well, and we should stick to innovation, which we are good at. Because people who are into innovation are at it 24/7 because they love what they're doing.
Well, I would like to remind you what just happened a few days ago. I think it was in Georgia when it was a battery plant of LG and Samsung, I believe, right? When hundreds of South Korean workers were rounded up, shackled, and deported to South Korea. Probably some of them didn't have all their papers in order. Probably there were some reasons to do that. However, you know what the reaction of South Korean Prime Minister? He said, no more investments in the United States. There were a agreement that South Korea would invest $1.5 trillion in the U.S. Cancelled, done with, no more $1.5 trillion because of this not well thought, in my opinion, action. Now, what were doing the South Koreans, well over 300 people? They were teaching American workers how to do these batteries. So where is the American know-how? Where is American brilliance? Where is all that?
I got regulatory clearance for a dental implant some years ago, and I went to the Philippines to talk about it and to introduce people to it, and I went to South Korea. The South Koreans are so far ahead of us in many respects. We think that we know what we're doing. Got to South Korea. Wow, they're so far ahead of us.
Not to mention China, which is eating our lunch in terms of batteries. But the idea that the South Korean canceled this influx of money into the U.S., it was so short-sighted to do this. And you're not rounding up criminals. You're rounding up people who are working. And especially
working, they're highly skilled,
yes,
very well-educated workers.
And helping U.S. workers to learn how to do their work better. And So this is the why immigration has always been helpful to the United States, because you get an influx of people doing jobs that we wouldn't want to. As Milan was saying, these factory jobs are soul crushing, and so but people will come and do these jobs because they think of a better future for themselves and their families, and rather than shutting the door on them, keeping them out, we should be encouraging those types of people who want to work to come to the United States, and
instead of shackling them.
absolutely, it's not only the wrong thing to do, it's financially crushing in the long term, because you're basically saying, okay, all these brilliant people coming from different countries, teaching at our universities and giving us their skill sets that we can learn from, you're no longer welcome. And so go to a different country and teach them how to do this, and the United States will lag behind. And the United States is lagging behind. Even the drone warfare that's going on, the technology involved in that, the United States is not leaders in that.
Well, I mentioned frequently that empires have a 100% failure rate. Is the failure of the American empire close?
Well, if we continue what this administration is doing, it's nothing but a recipe for future disaster. And if the country, if Trump tries to stay in power, for example, and the country allows it, then our future will crumble compared to other countries that are not shackled this way. But I do believe in the better angels, and I do believe that we will come out of this period of America first kind of thinking, my country right or wrong kind of thinking. We're better than you type of thinking. This kind of thing, rather than we have a global market, we have a global economy, but we are far from a global community. And once we start to build a global community with free trade and at its core, and if someone is not playing ball in free trade, then a useful use of a tariff might be indicated. But this massive tariff stuff is laughable, because the countries that they were slapping these tariffs on are not paying the tariffs. The American consumer is. So funding for taxes, it's going to the federal government.
You know that a president can stay in office during times of war. FDR did, for example. And Trump is going to declare war on somebody so that he can stay in office.
Well, it's controversial. I've long thought that Netanyahu has the desire to keep war going because he faces consequences if he leaves office. But there's always the quest to retain power. Putin certainly has it. And, anybody who has got the ego to run for office and to be president or to be prime minister or be czar, these people want to stay in power. There's no question about it. The American system is designed to limit that power to 2 terms. And so if you declare war, the military has got to go along with you to say that you can stay in office.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of balances, checks and balances built into the system so that we're not a monarchy. We don't have a king. Or maybe we do.
George Washington was the first person in power who said, I don't need any more than 8 years. Every person in power before Washington wanted to stay in power and then pass it on to his children, many of whom are not competent.
And usually the changes were violent.
Changes were violent. So Washington deserves a lot of credit for being the first president to say, I don't need any more than 8 years. Yeah.
What I would like to mention is that there is something happening right now in U.S. that Trump is using so-called how he called them, the National
Guard.
That's something what's supposed to be under jurisdiction of the states. And he sent this troops from red states to blue states. So therefore they can do some sometimes quite aggressive actions. And he stopped sending this to Chicago. He figured out that that could be quite risky, at least at this time. So instead, he chose sending
LA.
his National Guards to Memphis and some others. So this can destabilize, even without starting the war against whom he can start the war, because he's pathetic coward. He can start war against country like Venezuela, maybe, but nothing more than that.
Well, he's
By-
great at dividing this country, but what he's done is united the rest of the world against us. And so
Right
they're forming alliances. South Korea is now forming alliances with China, which wasn't in the cards before Trump.
Absolutely.
So there are a few countries that will still we're still in their good graces, but they're just getting fewer and fewer.
Fewer and fewer. Americans who go abroad often put a Canadian flag on their backpack,
I've been told to do that.
pretending that they're Canadians. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. The only difference is that as a rule, they don't speak French, but a lot of Canadians don't speak French.
Right.
So that's not a big impediment. It's a separate theme speaking about Trump's presidency. I don't believe that he will survive by 2028. I really don't think so. But we'll see.
Well, I hope you're right about that. One good thing that Hitler did was he shot himself at the end. And Trump is not going to do that. But one of these days he won't be around anymore, and that won't happen too soon. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it's not a Trump bashing show, but we know what he's done to the markets, and we know that the tariffs have affected not the exporter from other countries, but the importer, because they're the ones that have to buy the product from, say, France, just to pick a country. I'm buying from France, and France has not changed its price. It's getting exactly the same price it was doing before. So the tariff is absorbed by the importer. Now the importer has a choice. Can I eat this, or will I dip into my profit margin? I'm not going to sell it for a loss, so I'm going to pass it on to the American consumer.
You know that former New York Mayor Bloomberg said that if Trump had taken his inheritance and put it into SPY, he would have done better than he's doing now. He might not have had as much fun, but he would have done better economically.
Well, considering that in the last few months while he became president, he amassed fortune of $3.8 billion.
Yeah.
He never had such money available to him, never in his life.
Yes,
I don't think
all
if
the money.
keep all his money in the S&P 500, I don't think he would gain this fight.
No, he's invested in cryptocurrency,
Yes.
and he's made a deal with if I might be wrong about this, but I think it's a wealthy Saudi Arabian person who has untold wealth, and so he put some fraction of his wealth into this cryptocurrency, and Trump is giving him what he wants, and so these deals are being made on international waters, let's say, so they're not subject to the U.S. laws, and so Trump is pumping money into him and his family by cutting these deals, giving some foreign dignitary or just a wealthy person something that they can profit from, and in turn he profits from. So using the power of the presidency to personally enrich yourself is not something George Washington would have done.
Nobody else would have done. Now, very interesting thing on foreign policy is that Trump, he doesn't want to get involved in Ukraine anymore. So he wants to concentrate only on wars that he can win. So there are two wars that he can win. One, when there is Israel in action, because Israel by far the strongest country in that region, and it can defeat any countries there or all countries put together. It doesn't matter. And Trump always says how much he supports Israel, and of course, United States, where he can defeat Democrats and by using the National Guards and some other absolutely incredible anti-human devices. But with Israel, there is one very interesting situation with the recent bombing of Israel to bombing of Qatar and destroying their buildings and killing some Palestinians there, Hamas and so on. So now Qatar is, after they presented Trump with the Boeing 747 and pledging all kind of future investments into the U.S., all of a sudden, Israel, ally of United States, is bombing them, and they can't figure out what to do about it. And Trump doesn't know what to do about it. He cannot say Israel to stop that, because Israel will do whatever Israel thinks what they have to do. What?
Every confrontation between the Arabs and the Israelis, the Arabs have lost every time without exception.
And if you go for the next 100
years, learn that.
Well, Qatar didn't start confrontation with Israel, with all due respect. It was Hamas, but Hamas is supported by Qatar. So Israel wanted to destroy this top Hamas people who are living and hiding in Qatar. That's why and what.
Yeah, you know that Jesus Christ taught the Sermon on the Mount, turn the other cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Israel turned the other cheek, there will be no more Israel. Now, the Bible also says a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. That's what Israel is doing, because that's the only way they're going to survive. And they've won every confrontation they've ever had with the Arabs. When are the Arabs going to learn that they will lose if they engage Israel once more?
That's a major difference between Judaism and Christianity. In Judaism, there is no other cheek. You just go. Somebody asked me on one of the programs, I think yesterday, a question with Israel bombing in Qatar, what Qatar should do. You know what was my answer? Look at what's happened in Ukraine when a huge Russian army started the war against Ukraine. Ukraine could very easily give up, say, okay, Russia, okay, you can rule as much as you can. No, they were fighting, and they are now as close to victory as ever before. They're fighting the war of 21st century. They are highly advanced technologically. They have now production of weapons that even United States doesn't have.
More than that, how many Russians want to be in that war against Ukraine? Close to zero. And how many Ukrainians want them out of there? Close to 100%.
That's right. So I said then Qatar may choose, if they feel that Israel is unfairly invaded their airspace or so on, they can fight Israel. They can declare the war on Israel and fight them for about 45 minutes. That's maximum what this
maybe
will
less
last.
than that. Yeah.
That's another story. So all Arab countries that are unhappy with Israel, get up and fight. Stop whining and screaming on social media that Israelis are no good, that there is Jews are attacking us and doing this. Get up and fight. Hello? Get up and fight. Yeah. And stop whining and stop all this nonsense. And recognize that Israel is the most progressive country in that region.
Yeah.
Work with them, be friends with them, not fight, because you were fighting for 80 some years and you know the result of that.
Yeah,
If
right.
If
Yeah.
6 days war would be today, it would have been 6 hours war. It wouldn't last 6 days.
Well, we know that Putin thought by amassing troops in Belarus that he would just march to Kiev and win, and it would be over very soon. And he was very surprised, I think, that he found himself in a war that has no end in sight. And these types of thinking that you can just go in and take over a sovereign country, that is an ancient thought. We've been brought up to believe that. History has taught us that it can be done. And with today's modern weapons, what Hamas and these terrorist organizations are doing is much like guerrilla warfare. You strike, run and hide, strike, run and hide. And, and Israel can try to find all their hiding places, but, this is not a recipe for doing business with each other and, trading with each other. This is a recipe for ongoing misery and suffering, which is unfortunately happening in Gaza, unfortunately happening in Ukraine, and the Russian people are also suffering. But the idea that you can sustain this for long periods of time, I think, without crippling your economy and your people, I think that these things, unless all your economy is built towards war and the war effort, there's no risk of doing business as usual. And I think most of us want to do business as usual. And when we can do that, we can all prosper. But these ancient recipes are causing so much disruption. We can ship grain to people that were starving. This is one of the things that is maybe unintended consequences, maybe intended, but probably unintended consequences, or it's not thought about as a high priority because what is told to you on television is the explosions, and it's not the suffering of the people who cannot find food, who cannot
there's enough food to feed everybody on the planet. Yet there are people who are starving because of corruption in their part of the world. Yeah, and now also,
amen to that.
Ukraine used to be a part of the Soviet Union, and so Putin wants to get it back to where.
Again, that's looking back to the past. He wants to recreate something that once existed. It broke up for a reason, and you have to accept this. And this idea of posing with your shirt off on a bear to look strong and tough. These images have to stop impressing people. It's a foolish, it's a boyish thing to do.
The Soviet Union fell apart under Gorbachev, whom we regard as a saint of the 20th century, but he is at the very bottom of Russian leaders when the people in Russia are asked to comment about Gorbachev. Yeah.
Well, Gorbachev brought short-lived freedom to people. The people didn't know how to use this freedom. Country was in terrible economic shape.
Yeah.
There were forces much greater than Gorbachev himself. And Gorbachev was a product of Soviet system. So he didn't have a clear plan what to do. Yeltsin more or less had some plans, but even he was opposed with a lot of hurdles. If you remember this November, or was it October of 1993, where the Supreme Soviet building in the center of Moscow was bombed by tanks, and you could see it on CNN and anywhere. So Russia had its fair share of misfortunes. Some of them were man-made misfortunes.
Interesting. When I was practicing dentistry, a Russian woman dentist came to visit me. And so I asked her about how much her rent was, and she told me. And I asked her how much her income was. It equaled her rent money. So I said, well, how do you make things work? She said, on the black market. She said, the black market is the only honest market there is because it's not subsidized and it's not taxed. And maybe there's something to be said for that.
The barter system, but again, that's ancient. We have to modernize our way of thinking in terms of getting along with each other, as well as putting these ancient amnesties aside, because there is no profit to be made except for the people who make bullets and missiles and drones. These types of things get in the way of a free market society, and free markets have always been good for everyone involved. So when we export and import goods, people can do well. But when we're talking about Russia now, but also we can't forget the role that the United States plays. Trump still thinks we're the big dog, and he sneers at other countries. And unfortunately, we're getting past in the areas of technology. I mentioned China and batteries. Batteries are going to be essential for the artificial intelligence world of the future. Energy sources are incredibly important now, and we're trailing badly in this area. We don't produce the way that the Chinese and South Koreans and the Japanese are doing. And the technology, as Sasha pointed out, the Ukrainians are creating weapons that we can't match.
An increasing number of Republicans are against Trump. That's encouraging. Now, how did he get elected? I don't understand, because when we talk, we are not in favor of Trump. Most of the people that I know don't like Trump, yet he got elected. How did he get elected?
By phony promises of job creation, bringing America, making back again, and so on. But with job creation, I have a big problem. So far, he is not creating jobs.
No, the jobs numbers are going down and inflation is going up. This is the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
Stagflation, so-called, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we'll see in a few minutes the big decision of Federal Reserve. Then we'll listen to comments,
Yes.
Jerome Powell.
Yes.
Market, I just looked a few minutes ago. Market has stopped. It's not functioning anymore.
Oh.
They have the same prices for the last half an hour.
Yeah.
Nothing moves. Everybody is already by the television sets and watching what's going to happen. And we'll see in a few minutes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I was going to say, and we didn't even talk about how Trump is interfering with the Fed.
We'll talk about it all. The most interesting thing will be in November, when Supreme Court will take case about the tariffs.
Yeah.
Because so far all the
Judges
cases, so far everybody ruled that they are illegal, simply because it's a prerogative of Congress, not the president. So we'll wait until November. But what's the most interesting thing, all illegal gains have to be retrospectively returned back. And I would like to see how hundreds of billions of dollars collected so far in tariffs will be returned back. That will be the most interesting spectacle to see.
Oh my goodness.
But we'll see. The time is on our side. We'll slowly get to November decision. In the meantime, thank you so much for today's program.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
And good luck in trading.
Thank you,
See
Ron.
you next week, same place, same time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.